You talk to them, and it responds, "Mountains are nice." And that's it. Mountains are nice. Beautiful in its simplicity and charming in its unorthodox use of punctuation. The perfect moment in arguably a perfect game. Let's dance, shall we? To begin, one of the most important things to know about me is that there are few things more upsetting in life than crowds. Concerts and sporting events and rush hour public transit are not my favorite places to be. Thankfully, two of these are easily avoidable. The third, I just sort of deal with. I was thinking about my dislike of crowds recently, and it reminded me of an old movie, one that sticks with me for an odd reason. I was listening to a podcast a while back and heard the two hosts really shit on the movie Minority Report. Not because of some problem with the plot, characters, acting, or pacing, but because of its aesthetic. It stuck with me because it was novel and true. You see, Minority Report, along with Apple, seemed to give birth to this idea of interactive computer screens that project their content in 3D. You remember the CG graphics of Tom Cruise manipulating those floaty, ethereal memories with his nifty gloves? Seems innocuous though, right? But it is quite interesting how that aesthetic totally overtook our idea of the future and what it would look like. Search high-tech or AI or high-tech AI or something similar in a stock photography service and you'll get real images of human beings mimicking Tom Cruise in Minority Report. But instead of memories of murders yet to be committed, it's just some flowcharts and general tech ephemera. None of this technology exists, obviously, but you know, it's what the future is, or at least what we think would be cool. That podcast I'm talking about was Watch Out for Fireballs. It's a good one, if you're looking. And they've harped on this on numerous occasions, to the point where it's actually seeped into my own thoughts as well. You see, prior to that movie, many high-tech scenes and props were essentially analog. Star Wars, for instance, might take home the award for most buttons on screen at once. Novels like Neuromancer and movies like Logan's Run got the entire concept of what the future would look like wrong, but somehow, they both seem more realistic compared to the floaty graphics and shimmering lights of Minority Report. But this video is not about buttons versus touchscreens, and it's not even really about Minority Report, actually. This long and winding tangent is here for two reasons. One, to plant a seed for a future video on the way the future has been explored in various video games important to me. And two, a pitch-perfect example of how the 7 billion branching paths of my kind of broken brain work. You see, remember my musings about how I hate crowds? Here it comes full circle. I hear a lot of shit about the movie Minority Report because of how it portrayed future tech and how it played no small part in the decline of buttons and tactile feedback. But one of the most horrifying parts of that movie for me, and why it will stay rent-free in my head until the ravages of age or alcohol purge it from my mind, is the part when Tom Cruise is playing in the pool with his son. The reason this scene chills me to the bone is because there is nothing I find more upsetting than crowds, and no type of crowd is more psychologically damaging than a crowded pool. I don't know what happened to make me feel this way, but it's very true and also quite inconvenient. I've actually loved pools my entire life, and when I first wrote this script, I actually had just come in from lane swimming at my local community center. But much like a crowded subway, the moment a pool becomes crowded is the moment I move into survival mode. To me, there are few things worse than crowds, yet here I am on the internet, itself a form of crowded chaos, and I'm diving headfirst into one of the most overcrowded pools out there, gaming YouTube. Let's dance, shall we? Some of you might be thinking, this is a video game channel? When is he going to start talking about video games? I will get there, trust me, but first I need to strain this metaphor about pools a little further. You know the saying, bright lights cast dark shadows? I've gone over the fact that I hate few things more than a crowded pool, but I also find great joy, and I'm talking childish glee, in finding a pool, or maybe just part of one, where no one goes. I'm reminded of the various moments seared into my childhood memory of playing in a pool when it became empty, and how freeing it was to swim without worry. To bob my head under, brave the chlorine sting, and open my eyes. To watch the breath that was sustaining me tremble and quiver as it escapes my lungs and pushes to the surface. My now less buoyant body slowly sinking. Peace. Quiet. These moments meant something to me as a child, the moments away from the crowd where I noticed things that no one else sees, such as the air bubbles trapped under the steps of the aluminum ladder in the deep end, or the way the murky light casts its muted glow against the blue tile. For my whole life, I've wanted to be part of something, but apart from it. To be with the crowd, observing, but never move with the crowd, nor be swayed by its tempo or tenor. It was in this special in-between state that I found a treasure trove of moments that go unnoticed, of places that remain untouched, and of ideas that are abandoned. I want to nurture these special moments, these moments that meant something to me. I want to let their comforting glow wash over me again, and immortalize them, and hopefully strike a chord with other like-minded, soft-hearted people. In an effort to illustrate the connection I want to accomplish with Where No One Goes, I played with the idea of creating a person from my youth that I noticed doing the same weird stuff as me on the other side of the pool. I went so far as to come up with a story of how we became friends and went on to play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the arcade room at the Surf Rider Inn in Myrtle Beach every year when our families dragged us there for March break. One year, we realized the arcade's cabinet lock was broken, so we could put a single quarter in for our new life and catch it before it fell to the coin box, effectively giving us unlimited lives. The crazy thing about this is that there was a kid like that, and that is actually a true story. We met playing in the pool, but our friendship really blossomed in the games room. I hadn't thought of this boy in nearly 30 years until I wrote this script. I wanted to start this channel to explore the unique aspects of how I look at video games and how I feel they interact with my life. I wanted to find those moments and ideas that have affected me so greatly in my 35 years of playing. Those amazing moments that made me feel lonely because there was no way someone else could have felt the same thing at the same time. And I wanted to be proven wrong. I want to carve out a spot for some meandering stories and deep cuts into sometimes ancient video games, and hope it strikes a chord with even just one other person. And so, when I was exploring the idea of jumping into gaming YouTube, some things start to surface. The imagery of the pool, my foggy memories of family vacations to Myrtle Beach, that old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet. Everything coalesced, and I remembered that boy. My best friend for a single week every year. That boy was as weird and awkward as me, as really all children are, and it fell into place. As an aside, if by chance this boy comes across this one day, I think he was from Indiana. That's all I remember. That feeling of being your truest self, and then seeing another person be their truest self, and realizing that you share a connection. That feeling is beautiful. Impossible to replicate or fake. I would be lying if I said that I remember exactly what went through my head all those years ago. But I am not lying when I say that as I sat down to write this, I did not expect to unearth a distant and kind of beautiful memory of another weirdo being weird. This stroke of luck is why I will be embracing tangents as I meander through these scripts. In this culture where there is no distance happening upon something true, not something performative, not something chasing a fad, this is the feeling I'm chasing here with Where No One Goes. We may have met in the pool being weird kids, but pretty much every second that this boy and I weren't swimming or being dragged off by our parents doing vacation stuff, we were playing the broken Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade in that tiny games room. To be honest, the game, as good as it is actually secondary to the feeling of putting a quarter in and either nabbing it before it fell into the receptacle or rooting around in the bin itself. It was like sinking to the bottom of a crowded pool, or looking at the way the trapped bubbles danced under the aluminum ladders. I felt like I was in a place where no one goes, a solitary place that maybe I wasn't supposed to be, a secret place that existed not to hold secrets, but just to be apart from that which surrounded it. It was a foundational moment, seared in my mind, and it made me feel different. It's not the first time I recognized it, but I think it was instrumental in me thinking about how I was different, and whether or not there was anyone else out there like me. It would be a very long time before I realized that no, I wasn't alone. There are plenty of other people like me. There are plenty of others out there who share these feelings, and even more that are different in their own way, but with whom we can share common ground. In the age of the internet, this isn't a novel experience. However, what I think is actually quite novel in my case is that this realization came about because of, wait for it, a coffee mug. I'm in my 40s. I have quite literally seen every consumer evolution of the internet from the very start. I was a very early adopter and spent tons of time on old IRC chats, GeoCities and AngelFire fan websites, and video game message boards. But while I've been constantly online since the mid-90s, I did take a long break from internet culture around the time that Facebook came about. I have two reasons for this. One, I was old enough to recognize hate when I saw it, and as video games were concerned, it was obvious and visible. I became wary of the shit I was witnessing, and history has unfortunately proven me right. And B, I met my wife, and my priorities changed rather drastically. In my long absence, I may have dodged a few cultural bullets, but I also missed out on some pretty damn good parts of the internet as well. Interestingly enough, one of the first things I found upon my return many years ago was the seed of this channel. It was this cup. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. Someone else remembered this moment from Chrono Trigger, and not only that, they also painted the scene and called it by its right name. Mountains are nice. Bless you, Ted Woolsey. We will be getting back to this scene in a future video, because this moment in Chrono Trigger is as foundational as the moment in the pool or the free play of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in how I see the world. For the uninitiated, there's this Kilwalla, a big, fluffy, round, cute monster sitting at Cliff's Edge in the Denadoro Mountains in 600 AD. It's not aggressive like some of the others you meet, no, it's just existing. It's just absorbing what was, at the time, some of the most breathtaking scenery in video games. Looking out over the mountains, admiring the view, just like I had mere minutes prior. The Kilwalla is just existing in the moment, not mattering to the grander scheme, wrapped by beauty. Mindfulness influencers should take some notes on this monster. You talk to them, and it responds, "Mountains are nice." And that's it. Mountains are nice. Beautiful in its simplicity and charming in its unorthodox use of punctuation. the perfect moment in arguably a perfect game. You found them in a place where no one goes, and it didn't matter. They don't matter. They are just there. In Chrono Trigger, I found another weirdo, another friend, another kindred spirit, and I thought I was alone in how much this affected me. Until decades later, I happened upon someone else, and indeed several other people, who felt similarly. First, I bought a coffee cup. Next, I bought a traveler mug. And then for many years, I could no longer find this piece of art and resigned myself to just these two items, ones that I would cherish forever. But in doing some research for this video and gathering some footage, I did come across the actual artist and the actual product for sale again. In this single introductory script for this channel, I've already unearthed a beautiful old memory and found a product I thought was lost, that I will no doubt be sinking some more cash into in the near future. This is the type of connection that I want to create with this channel. I want people to find things they didn't know they were looking for. I want to explore these scenes in video games over the years, because as I age, I realize we're all just here. We all don't matter, and we all have our places where no one goes. So, let's explore them together. If any of you made it this far, I'd like to thank you. It likely hasn't been easy. I'm going to be winging these sign-offs for each of these videos, which is to say I have not written a script for this. You probably have noticed that my video sounds like someone wrote it and did not think about how it would sound when spoken. And that's true. That's exactly how I work. I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. But I decided to try this out because I truly do love some of the content I've seen on YouTube. I want to give a shout out specifically to Daryl Talks Games. He is, in my opinion, the best person on YouTube when it comes to video games. I also want to shout out Watch Out for Fireballs, a podcast I've been listening to for 10 years, as well as Retrograde Amnesia, a podcast I've been listening to for, I think, about 5. I either mentioned these outright or used their logos when I was talking about the good parts of the internet, so I thought it was important to actually say something about them at the end here. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, and share and all that. I don't know if what I'm doing is worth it to you, but I am doing this for me more than anything else. I also know that I need to get better at this, and I'm going to, but I can only do so if I have a few people there with me along the way. So please comment. I honestly cannot wait to engage with you all. Let's explore the places where no one goes, together.